doing a quick video. There's a question on my most recent spray putty versus filler primer test. Can you put the Bondo spot putty in the acetone as basically a pre-mixed formula and let it sit? My theory is no. I think the acetone, it will slowly eat away at it. I could be wrong. I've never tried it. It was just based on some of the things that I have tried with paint and other resins where I've diluted them with lacquers and whatnot. What I'm gonna do here is flip the camera around. I'm gonna dump some putty in this little vat of acetone that I have left. We're gonna let it sit and come back and check it out. All right, so here is my acetone. Hopefully you can see it splashing around in there. So what I'm gonna do here is get some putty. Definitely have to store it in the acetone container, plastic bottles and things. They were chemical resistant bottles, but when you leave them in there for a few days, they just start destroying the stuff. I made the putty mix here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave this. Storing acetone, you always want to keep them. You can see where I keep my acetone out of the sun. I keep the heat as low as possible. I'm gonna leave this right here. I'm not gonna touch it. It's got the putty mix in there. We'll come back, see if it holds up. All right, it is a moment of truth time. I wanted to give it like 3 or 4 days, but I got super busy. So I figured today would be a good day to see how the putty was holding up. All right, so here is the mix here. You can see that it still looks red, which it still could be. It doesn't mean that the putty isn't broken down, but my theory was if you were to take a fish that lives in brackish water, which is part freshwater, part saltwater, and then move him to just salt water, he would slowly die. Be able to live for a little bit, but not too long because his body can't desynthesize the salt. I know that's kind of scientific and geeky, but that's basically what we have here. So my thought process is the acetone, there's more acetone than putty. Yes, there's acetone in the putty, but we're putting it in, a concentrated form, and it would thin it out and slowly deteriorate it. I could be wrong. I based it off of a biology standpoint, I guess. So what I'm gonna do here is just find a cap and pour it in there. I'm just gonna pour the whole thing in here. Like I said, it's gonna be, look how watery that is, I think it's definitely eaten away at the putty. It's not really filling anything in. Yeah, it was this side. See here how you can still kind of see brush marks? I don't know how well you can see that right there. See how you can see the brush marks right up at the top? You're not really seeing that here. Again, it's going to have color to it because some of the putty's going to be left, but there's really it's not really filling anything in. Look how watery this is. It's just pure acetone being suspended in so much acetone that it is going to slowly eat away at the putty. Now, of course, it's still red because that's just a dye and it's going to be there, but you can see it's so faint. But it doesn't feel like anything's in here. There's a little bit of splash of acetone in, but there's no weight to it. When you do something like this, when you put it in a container, you can see all the buildup, and I almost guarantee that if I take this, if I just squeeze this stuff out here and start mixing this up, so I guess this is a good way to test it here. It was really hard to do this with one hand. But, I mean, you can see how much redder. All I've been doing is dunking it in here, which has some excess putty and just a little bit of acetone. You can see how it stripped it all off there. So just that putty, building up, you can see how much more redder it is. Where I applied it with the stuff that was sitting in the container, I mean, it's just almost completely gone now. It's like I said, it's mostly just colored acetone. You can already see buildup. You can see the putty being left over. You can see big buildup here. You can't store this putty in a container because it will eat away at it. I give you guys the heads up just to kind of see in case you were wondering, like, hey, can I make a pre-mixed vat of the acetone and putty? You're really better off not doing that. For short term, maybe could you do it for a day or two, perhaps, but I think you're better off really just, getting a dish like this and kind of mixing it up and using it when you need it. You can even tell here as I continue to make a mess, this was the container that the pre-mixed mess was in, and you can see there's just no putty on the bottom. It's not like this where you can see all the putty is kind of left over after it dries out. There's literally no putty in here, and that's like that with all these containers. You know, you can see that the putty is left in the, it gets built up on the edge here. This is built up on the bottom. You can see it. There's nothing in here. It's just, unfortunately, it's disintegrated. The majority of the putty. See how thin it is here? There's really just no buildup. The acetone essentially just kind of soaks into the plastic. It doesn't really leave any putty behind. Whereas here, you can see how we already have, you know, buildup here. And this should sand down pretty good. So just a quick tip I wanted to give you guys in case you were trying to make a pre-mixed vat of the Bondo putty and the acetone. That is a no-no. You'll just be left with a huge mess like this. All right, guys, well, that is a wrap on this video. I just wanted to show you the findings that I had of that. Like I said, I had an inkling that it really wasn't going to work. Wasn't 100% sure. So I wanted to try it out. My findings were exactly what I thought, that the acetone slowly just kind of deteriorated. So really the best method, if you are using this Bondo spray putty method, whether it be in an airbrush or painting it on with a brush, or just mix it as you need it. The acetone is just too concentrated. It will slowly deplete the Bondo putty and leave you with nothing but acetone. That's pretty much it for this video, guys. Hopefully you found it useful. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions or concerns, drop me a comment. If you're subscribed, thank you so much for watching the channel. If you're not a subscriber and you enjoy all things 3D printing, cosplay, DIY, all the fun stuff we're doing here, go ahead and click that sub button because we got much more on the way. Until the next video, DW out. Later.